All right, so this is my 1982 K20 Suburban diesel four-wheel drive, 3/4 ton. It used to look a lot nicer than this. I sold it 3.5 years ago, and unfortunately the kid kind of let it go. Then he called me back just under a year ago and wanted me to buy it back. So I got it back. It's got getting a little worse for the wear. Some rust, and the paint is destroyed. When I gave it to him, it was beautiful, gorgeous, polished, running perfect. Rims were brand new, tires were brand new. It did have this little problem in the roof that he patched, but I get it back, and it's supposedly got a blown head gasket. It's got the dash ripped out. It's missing the vent window over there. The headliner's falling. Part of the dash is in the back. So I'm just gonna start, change the oil, see if there's any water in the oil, and kind of go through and try to get it back to its former glory. Oof, that's rough. So we'll see what happens. All right, just as I jump under it, it's got a different fuel pump, lift pump, that he did say he put in, but it's wire nutted in. It's got the rebuilt fresh drive shaft, lengthened 2 inches. Still missing the front drive shaft. We're going to put in a Wix 5160 or 51061 and some Castrol GTX diesel SA 15W40. Look at those wheels, were brand new when I gave it to him. I don't think he cleaned them in the 2.5 years he had it. All right, so fortunately no water came out of the oil, but you can see that gasket's pretty destroyed, so I'm gonna have to get a new one. Oil was just black and sludgy, so we will see. I have to run to Sam's Club and buy some batteries. It's supposed to be group 74, but they don't show them anymore, so I might have to get group 75. Oh, we will see. All right, so I decided to leave that plastic washer gasket on the drain pan nut because I haven't had the truck, like I said, in about 3 years. So I'm going to run this oil for a couple hours and then drain it out and put fresh in a fresh filter, and we'll see how bad it looks, because I don't know the maintenance schedule he did. But I'm going to pre-fill the filter we're putting on it. I still got to get up under and check the old filter, make sure the little rubber gasket here from the old one didn't stick to the engine block. That's always a pain. Had it happen when I was at Fort Knox, and it was on an earth mover. Fortunately, my GS15 Jim was under the truck checking for leaks while I started it. So he's the one that got bathed in about 40 quarts of oil before I shut it off. Because when you go the old rubber gasket to the new rubber gasket, it seals until you get some pressure. Then it just squirts right out the side. And yeah, he was not happy that day. Fortunately, I was in the cab of the earth mover, not under it, so I didn't get destroyed. All right, so that's about half full. It goes in straight up and down, so we can fill it up pretty close to the top. And what I haven't said is the engine in the Suburban originally was a 6.2 diesel, C code. When I bought it, the kid said, oh, the starter's bad. So I drug it home and the starter was bad, but what he didn't say was he had snapped the ear off the block where the starter goes in. So I had to source a 1986 Hummer H1 J-code engine from government liquidations. We pulled it apart, rings, bearings, everything. I never did the heads, which was a mistake. And shoved it in, and it ran great, but you had some valve clatter noise, so we'll see. I'm going to jump up under and put this on. Fortunately, the old gasket did stay on the old filter, so I'm just going to kind of go through and wipe down any residue off the housing. And I, of course, spilled a little bit out of the new filter, so it's dripping. Stick this back on. Just hand tight's good enough. All right, now we'll get up front and put some oil in it. All right, I took it off wide angle. It's been a minute, so 2.5, 3 years, so I don't know exactly how much oil it takes. We did modify the oil pan from the Humvee to fit the Suburban. Just had to chop it out a little bit and weld it back together. So, I really should get a funnel because I'm going to make a mess. So this looks like it is 3 3/4 quarts. It 100% will take all of this. And it's going to take forever because it's a small snout. Alright, I just ran to my work truck, which is an 88 K3500 Chevy. Single cab long bed. 6.2 diesel turbo 400. And it has a lot fatter snout. So the oil flows a lot more because it's an old diesel and it eats oil a lot. Doesn't leak, it eats. And this isn't sealing. That's wonderful. All right, so slow. Do. And I think I'll take you guys with me to Sam's Club. Like I said, I got to get batteries. And the radiator, when I got the truck and everything, it was leaking a little bit. So after we rebuilt the engine, put a new heater core in it, did the headliner, which is now falling again, pulled the radiator, had it re-cored because it's the original one. Paid way more than the ones the guys were trying to sell me from the auto parts store with the plastic end tanks. But this one's a lot better, but it's looked like it's had water in it, so it's kind of rusty and nasty in there. So we'll go get the batteries, get 2-3 gallons of coolant, and see if we can actually get it started today. I mean, it's what it is, January 12th 2020, and it has, I believe, February 2017 tags on it. So when I sold it to him, looks like he maybe only drove it for 6 months, maybe. He's a good guy. I still see him on Facebook every now and then, talk to him. He's a diesel lover. So he had a Cummins, and that was, let's see, before I had this, I had a single cab long bed dually. What would it be called? The 1989 Cummins. Regular 12 valve, 5-speed. drove it for quite a while, saw this online, put the Cummins up for sale. Within 3 days, I got a reply from a guy in Avoca, Texas, which is 1,250 miles from my house outside of Los Angeles here, that he wanted the truck, but it was harvest season, cotton, and he wouldn't be able to pick it up for 2 months. And he said, you know, can you store it for me for 2 months? And I was like, you know, tell you what, pay me $600 and I will deliver it to you. I'll drive it 1,250 miles to you. I'll drop it off. I'll rent a car or get to the airport and fly back. So he was all about that. And of course, right before I did that, transmission let go on it. So I had the transmission rebuilt by a local shop. Drove it out there, ran great, ran perfect. We got a little bit on the dipstick. Still need about a quart and a half. Got it to him. He drove it, thanked me, dropped me off at Abilene, which is 20 miles from Avoca Airport. Lady told me, oh, I'm sorry, the last flight out left 15 minutes ago. And I went, what do you mean last flight out? I go, when's the next flight? She said, tomorrow morning at 10, we close at 6. So I rented a car, drove another 250 miles to Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. Caught, was it 11 o'clock, 10:45 flight out that night. Landed in LAX at midnight local time. My buddy came down, picked me up. Next day, went and got this. You know, good looking truck, looked okay. The starter's out of it, just like the starter's out of it, just like the kid said. The starter was bad. Okay, so I had it towed home. Get up under it the next day, the ear of the block snapped off. So it just had some history with this truck. I like it. I don't like that it's a 160, 180 horsepower engine and a 5,000 or 6,000 pound truck. That would be something to handle later. I just want to get it up and running now. And the only reason I bought it back was because my son, who's turning 13 in a few days, a year and a half ago, told me, Dad, I really miss the red Suburban. So I was like, okay. And did what dads do. Go and buy what our child wants and likes. My wife wasn't too happy, but you know, that's how it goes. And that should do it. So it looks like it took 4, 5, 6.5 quarts, minus what I spilled. So yeah, it's gonna be fun getting it back on the road. I had put Rancho shocks in it. Brand new. Tires are Toyo Open Country with an ATS. Nope, sorry. Yokohama Geolander ATS. And they were takeoffs at my local tire shop. So I got them for $300 mounted and balanced, and they had maybe 3,000 miles on them. Usually buy new, but they were a good deal and they were in great shape, so why not? And that looks perfect. Of course, until we start it and it sucks it down into certain places. All right, so this is done. After this, we're gonna change the oil in the work truck. And I gotta get the oil changed in the Suburban. And then this is my next project, but not for a while. All right, let's go to Sam's. So I've been debating if I'm gonna put a LS in Big Red or REDRUM, or I don't know, a 4BT or something, because I don't want to get into cutting the firewall too much. I could do it off my Suburban, but we have 293,464 miles. So I can buy a low mileage one, so I can get engine, transmission, computers, harness, everything for, I don't know, $3 grand, $3,200, and do the swap. I'd still probably be about a total of $5 or $6 grand in it, if not a little more. Or do I just get the 6.2 running and drive it like that? I mean, it's a big heavy truck. Never got stuck, but it's been close a few times when we have it loaded down with all the prospecting gear and 100 gallons of water and everything. So I'd like to have, 300 horsepower in it, which this Suburban motor 295, that would do it. A little programmer, and it'd be about 320, which would be, I don't know, 260 to the wheels, which is double what I have now. All right, I decided to go to O'Reilly to get my batteries. Just figure when I'm out in the desert, there's gonna be more O'Reillys around than there are Sam's Club, so let's run in and go get 2 batteries. All right, so I got 2 brand new batteries. I got degreaser, I got flush, I got coolant. I come back, and what don't I have? I don't have the little battery cable bolts. And I picked up a couple ring terminals also, just to be safe. So I had to run back to O'Reilly. So we spend so much time running around doing stuff we don't need to do because we're forgetful. And that's not horrible, but it's got crap. So we will get it started and get it flushed out. All right, so everything's wired. Batteries are hooked up. I had to go back a 3rd time and get the extender cables. Or the extender bolt, sorry. And the alarm he put on it was screaming in my ear. So let's give it a shot. pressure might be working. Coolant's definitely not working. It's not been running long enough. The needle broke off the fuel gauge, but it looks like it's 3/8 of a tank. But when I hit the brake, it squeals, so that's probably why he parked it. Let's listen. So it's got to be something with the booster or whatever. And I don't know what the hell's going on with all this wiring. But it starts, it runs. That's the biggest thing. We'll get it all figured out. All right, so I just shut it off. And he was complaining about the radiator hoses being hard, having too much pressure. That's why he thought it had a blown head gasket. So I come over here and I go to squeeze the radiator hose and listen. Sounds like something's caked in it. Yeah, so those are gonna come off right now, and let's see what comes out of it. And I just shot myself in the foot. I went in bragging with the Suburban runs, and my wife goes, "Oh, you bought a battery for it?" It's like, damn it, I forgot that she knew it needed batteries. I told her it needed batteries. So we will see if I get in trouble. But first, let's take a look at this stuff. Oh, yeah, those look pretty nasty. So that's from the inside of the hose. That is no bueno. Let's look at the housing, thermostat housing. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. That's why you don't run just water. That's why you run coolant. So I guess it has fuel in it. It runs. I'm gonna put the hose back on and put the Prestone flush and cleaner in it and let it run for 15-20 minutes after I check the oil, make sure it's good, and then drain it. Hopefully most of this crap comes out. I probably will have to get new radiator hoses too, but I think for today this will do it. So let me get this hose back on. Now let's check the oil. See how nasty the oil looks. Although we just changed it, put fresh oil in it. not horrible. And it does look like it went down a quart, so check it again, maybe add some. Yep, need to add just under a quart. That was, like I said, it's been sitting for a while, so I'm sure the oil cooler drained down. And now that it's been running, it filled back up and is low. So let's see if I can do this without making a mess this time. All right, we're at 2 quarts. So we'll go to about 3/4 of a quart and see. Do the long pour. It's about 1/2 quart in. It's about 3/4 of a quart in. Let's yank the dipstick again. And still looks like it's down a little bit. And yeah, it is still down a bit. So let's top it off and we'll fire it up after we put the coolant cleaner, radiator cleaner and flush in it. This has lots of instructions saying use water, blah, blah, blah. It's only got water in it. So, Prestone radiator flush and cleaner. Ooh. Sucking it down. And that should be good enough. All right, so we ran it for about 20 minutes and drained it. Nothing too bad, just a little rusty. So we are now gonna fill it. And hopefully that's it for it. But when I was in it, push on the brakes kind of like push back real bad and burr, 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 burr. So that's going to be something I have to check out. right, so we're gonna fire it up and let it run. Hopefully the camera doesn't fall in the fan.